In this new course, we're going to talk about design and architecture in Rhino, and we're going to use many different types of tools and techniques to create different types of shapes. So like more rigid and architectural shape, but also more curvy and soft for furniture and furnishing and appliances and etc. etc. So we're going to use Rhino Servers 3D for this specific course. So if you want to get the student version, you can get it. You have the official website here when you have the download page, and you can get many different types of versions for Rhino. You also have a 90 days evaluation version, and also you have different types of licenses, and you can contact the team to ask for more um, details. So you will find everything in there. But if you don't know what to pick, you can just go for the free trial if you never use Rhino. And right now we are at the Rhino 8 version. Now we created before similar video course, and this was in Blender. So it's called 3D Architecture and Interior Design in Blender. And in here also we went through a series of different types of modeling techniques, etc., etc. So they will be both available for Windows and Mac, either Blender or Rhinoceros. And so why we did another course about 3D and architecture and design, since we already have one in Blender, because the two software, they work in a pretty different way. They are similar, but essentially we have a pretty distinguished difference between what is called polygonal modeling and what is called Nurbs modeling. So polygonal modeling is when you use faces and polygons primarily, while Nurbs modeling uses curves, and then from those curves you get the surface and then you get the solid. Now, if you're interested in Rhino in general, there is also a video course dedicated specific to Rhino basics. So I'm going quick for this video here, and we're going to go directly on those topics. So if you're interested in the basics of Rhino, you can check the Rhino video course. But essentially, that's the difference. So we have two main types of modeling. One is through curves and Nurbs. The other one is through polygons and faces. And Rhino is probably the best and the most popular software in terms of Nurbs modeling and curves modeling. You can do similar things in Blender. And on the other hand, you can also do some polygonal modeling in Rhino. But um, why we did these two different courses? Because we want to give, two different options. And also there are similar polygonal modeling tools like 3D Studio Max, Maya, Cinema 4D. These are all good for polygonal modeling and, well, less good for Nurbs modeling. So also in Cinema 4D and 3ds Max, we can use curves also in Blender, but the best is still Rhino if you want to use Nurbs modeling and curves modeling based on curves. Now, if you want to go further in terms of adding details to your objects, whether you create them in polygonal modeling or Nurbs modeling, you can choose to go into digital sculpting, which is, as you can see, more for character design and let's say organic forms like plants or rocks or animals or whatever. And you can do this also in Blender. As a matter of fact, we created another course in Blender called the character design, 3D character design video course in Blender. So if you're interested in this, you may want to use a software for specific for sculpting, and Rhino is not good for that. You can prepare the basic model in Rhino or in any other software, and then you can import it in a sculpting software, and then you can proceed by adding details and number of polygons. So digital sculpting is based on polygon, and you can have a look to ZBrush, to Matbox, and Blender for that. And again, you find all these courses in the channel. Just look for them, you'll find it there. Now, another way you can, let's say, create the ultimate materials and textures and mapping for your model, whether it's done in polygonal modeling or Nurbs modeling, you can do it with Substance 3D or Armo Paint. These are for basically painting and texturing directly on the object. And you find those courses as well. So in this course specifically, we're going to use Rhino, we're going to use Nurbs modeling mainly, and also we're going to have a look to other tools that can be found in Rhino. Also, an excellent tool is Grasshopper, but there is a separate course for that. So Grasshopper is like a plugin in Rhino that you can use to do also design and architecture. But we're gonna use the various types of tools and techniques to create the model. Now, once the model is ready, what about the rendering? So we have these two distinct parts, the modeling and the rendering. Now, for the rendering in Rhino, right now we have Cycles, which is the same render engine that we find in Blender. So this is the most advanced in both software, the Cycles interactive rendering, which is, I think, a really good render engine that you can definitely use to have quick and easy renderings. But if you want to do more, again, also here you can expand into the rendering and animation software. Like I suggest Twinmotion because it's free and can be downloaded using the Epic Games Launcher. And again, you find the Twinmotion video course as well. But also you can use Blender. Even if Cycles it's available in both Blender and Rhino, I think that Blender is better to handle scenes like, to do rendering and animation and lighting, etc., etc. I think that at the moment, Blender is better. So you can just export your 3D model made in Rhino and put it into Blender or Twinmotion or others similar. And again, you'll find also other alternatives in the channel if you look for it, if you look for rendering. So that's the whole path that we're going to go through in the course. Modeling, Nurbs modeling, different types of modeling and tools, and then rendering with Cycles and do some texturing and some materials and some lighting. Now, also, if you want to go further, you may want to have a look to Unreal Engine if you want rendering and also animation and interactivity. So if you want to do like a video game or an interactive app, you can check Unreal Engine. Okay, so now we are in Rhino. This is just to begin, and you can see now it's in English. I'm going to use an English version, of course, for Rhino, but I want to show you also how you can change the language in your own language if you want. But I'm not going to do anything here. We're going to start in the next lesson. This is just to get started here. And usually to start, you can go, well, these are the drop-down menus, so pretty, and you can see the path also in there. So this is really basic. Let's go to the first one, File, and go to Properties. And here you see we have settings for the rendering, the render engine, and then we have the document properties on the top and the Rhino options at the bottom. So this is for document is for the current document. The Rhino options instead are for generic settings for overall everything that is going to do in the software. So if you go in the appearance, this is where you can change the language. For example, I have English and Italian. And if I want to change in Italian, for example, because I am Italian, I can just change it up there. And you can also increase, decrease the text size, and you can change the colors, you can customize this. You can also restore to defaults anytime. So just play around here if you want a little bit with the customization. We're not going to go through that unless it's necessary, mandatory. And also you need to restart. So what I'm doing here is just restarting. And here I can check some recent files that I created in Grasshopper. So again, if you're interested, you can check Grasshopper video course for architecture and furniture, jewelry. It's perfect. It's just a different way to create things like parametric modeling. And then here, when you do the new model in Rhino, you can choose if you want to do like small objects, big objects, if you want to use millimeters, centimeters, meters, or feet or inches, etc., etc. Now, this is just the first choice, but you can always change it in the preferences in the Rhino options. And I think I'm gonna go with the first one on the top. But again, if you're doing something small, you may want to go with small objects, millimeters, for example, like for jewelry or things like that, like centimeters for furnishing, and meters for architecture if it's a really big architecture. For interior, I usually use centimeters. But again, this is your choice and you can always change it later if you want. So I'm going to go with the first one on the top, which is big objects and centimeters. And there we go. We are back in. Now you can see the language has changed. Is in Italian. I'm not going to do the English course in Italian. Don't worry. This is just for Italians. And in a similar way, you can change it in your own language. So you will find everything in your own language, including the settings, document settings, the Rhino options, so you may understand them a little bit better. And again, this is where I change it, and the language, what you just saw, but in Italian. And anytime, again, remember you can change here. And if you want to restore, you have the restore button at the bottom. So you can always go back and don't lose your mind in if you change something accidentally and it just messed up everything. So just go there and restore and just start all over. So in the next lesson, we're going to start to create something in Rhino, and we're going to use again Rhino English version. One more thing here in the aspect, actually there is a little arrow. If you expand that arrow, you will find the colors, and I'm using here the dark interface, but there is also a light or a bright interface, or you can customize even that, but I'm gonna keep the dark UI here because I don't want something that is too annoying and tiring, like pretty bright interface. I don't like that. I like it nice and dark and relaxing for the eyes. So that's just another quick set you can do in the Rhino options. In the appearance, just in the appearance tab, you expand, you find the colors, and you can change any color, including the overall interface, which we're gonna keep it dark. So this will be all for this first introductory lesson on this course. If you enjoyed, subscribe to stay updated. If you want to support us, join the channel, check out other video courses and video guides. And thanks. See you in the next.